Welcome back to JB Reviews. I did a video on these two diesels comparing their powertrains and the internals. And in this video today, we're going to drive them to see which one can get better fuel economy. We're also going to check out some acceleration, and I'll give you guys some driving impressions going down the road. Special shout out to Jerry Seiner Chevrolet for allowing me to do this video with their truck, and Larry H. Miller right here in Sandy, Utah for allowing me to borrow this truck. Be sure to check out their inventory. They have a ton of trucks. There's great incentives on these pickups right now too, so perfect time to buy. Let's get into it. All right, so let's go ahead and drive the Ram first. We're gonna reset the trip A here. We're gonna do it in the same spot, so right next to the Chevy, we'll end in the same spot too. Now we're gonna go on the highway for about maybe 15 minutes maybe. We'll probably spend like maybe a minute or two in the city. But yeah, this is a fun test because I've never had a chance to really put a Ram diesel and a Chevy diesel up against each other. If I really had some time, I would love to get that Nissan Titan over there, but that would be so dirty because that engine was not built for fuel economy, so it'd be kind of biased. But nevertheless, we're gonna go ahead and hop on the highway here. And at some point, I will show you guys some acceleration for this too. But let's go ahead and jump on the highway, guys. This is the 3-liter EcoDiesel, and this is gonna be good for, you ready for this? 260 horsepower, but 480 pound-feet of torque. That power comes on super low down, like to like what, 15 or 1600 RPMs. And get this, it's made it to an 8-speed transmission. It's called the 8HP 75, and that's gonna really help with the RPMs, and I can't wait to show it to you guys on this drive. Alrighty, so I did forget my GoPro, so I like to give you guys point of view. That way you have a nice view of me. You can kind of see how comfortable the truck is if it's bumpy. But it's okay, I can use my phone here. But overall comfort is really good in this truck. I drove it actually over to Jerry Seiner from Larry H. Miller, and these tires, wow, quiet. You're gonna hear a lot of noise and a lot of wind noise, I should say, because it's very windy today. I want to say it's probably like maybe 20-mile-an-hour winds maybe. And overall, yeah, these tires definitely are comfortable. They have a lot of sidewall. I think it's like a 275, 65, 18. And yeah, very comfortable. But let me go ahead and show you guys the RPMs here. So here we are. This truck is running about a little bit under 2,000, but we're going 68 miles an hour. I'm gonna try to run about 75 to 80 as much as I can, but you know, I'm in Utah, and on 15 the traffic is always bad on this road. So here we go. I'm going 78, so let's see if I can maintain 78 miles an hour. I'm a little bit over 2,000 RPM, so I think if this truck had like maybe 2 more gears, it would be just under 2,000. It'll probably be like around like 17 or 1800. So when we drive the Chevy, we really need to monitor this because this is important. I mean, this is gonna help with fuel economy. Now, sometimes if you're towing, sometimes the truck likes to be in a little bit higher gear to keep you in the broadband, and that can actually get you better fuel economy. But when you're unloaded, I like to be at the lowest RPM possible, and I'm thinking because of this 8-speed, it kind of puts you in a little bit higher RPM compared to that Chevy, when we'll see that in a second. So I've always said that Rams had the best interiors, and one thing I will mention, if you're looking at lower trim levels, ever since GM updated their interiors, I think GM is gonna beat this. Like, this is okay. It's nothing to write home about. It doesn't have dual climate control. It doesn't have the heated seats and heated steering wheel. And it does have a small cluster here. It's not digital. There is an availability, I believe, for this to have a digital cluster, which I have grown to like because it does give you more information that you can see at your fingertips. But overall, I'm not as impressed with this interior. But once you move up to the Laramie, Limited, Longhorn, and Limited, that's where this does beat the Chevy. Like, I don't think Chevy's High Country can even compete with the Limited, guys. It just doesn't. But this is such a nice truck still. But the other two have caught up for sure. Alrighty, so exit 297. So we have driven 8 miles, so we'll get about 17 miles or so on this trip. And as you guys can see, we're at 20.3. So here's something that you need to understand. There is a headwind because I got almost 30 miles a gallon coming from where I was, but I think the wind was behind me, so it was like a tailwind as they call it. And on this run here, I'm at 20.8. Now that was actually a little bit longer drive too. It's probably like more like 11 miles, but we're not back yet. We still can get 30 miles to the gallon. Now I don't think that the Silverado can get that, because when I drove in the past and did the test, it seemed like the best it could get was like 24, 25, but having a windy day, that might be a little scary. So we have to wait and see how everything shakes out, guys. So here are the numbers for the Ram. 3,900 pound axle up front. The rear is 4,100 pounds. 7,200 pound GVWR. So you're gonna have a higher GVWR because of the diesel powertrain. And then here's your payload. So this truck weighs in about 5,589 pounds. That's the curb weight right here for it. Going back the opposite direction, and I will show you guys an acceleration here in a second, but the fuel economy is actually a little bit lower than I was expecting it to be. I was hoping to be a little bit higher than this, but I'm going about 75 miles an hour. Now, something I wanted to mention in this video was pricing. Like, I'm not used to having base model half tons be $60,000. Like, this is insane. Like, on the HD side of the house, people can actually buy those trucks and make money. On the half-ton side of the house, these are like sedans with a bed, in a sense. And when you see $60,000 plus with no sunroof, no leather seats, no 12-inch display, there's a lot of stuff missing on this truck. And it's super, super expensive. And what surprised me was that the Chevy was a little bit cheaper, and it's kind of like a higher trim level. Not really, I guess the LT is kind of the same as a Bighorn if you think about it, but this is a lot of money for this truck in my opinion. I think for all of them, even though Chevy's too expensive, and that's why I think they're really starting to incentivize these trucks. You know, you can see that a lot. And I think that if you're going to buy one of these, I don't know that the diesel is going to save you more money, but you can run on the highway for a long period of time compared to a gas truck. Like, this truck is advertised to get 1,000 miles because you can get a 33-gallon fuel tank. However, in the Chevy, you only have a 24-gallon tank, which is super stupid. They need to change that. That is like the biggest reason why I would probably pick this over the Chevy, is that small fuel tank. Alrighty, so we're off the highway. We're back at the dealership essentially. But look at this, guys. This is terrible. Well, what am I talking about? This is not terrible. I'm comparing this to my drive on a totally different road. So I'm at 26.9, but I have not done the 0 to 60 acceleration. So that's going to make the big difference there, guys. So here's 0 to 60. .7 is where we are so far. We drove about 17.7 miles and we're not done yet. I'll show you guys where we're going to stop at here. So we're going to stop right next to this beige Chevy Malibu. So here it is, 25.7, 17.8 miles driven in about 22 minutes. So that is really good for a half ton. I think if I were to do a Hemi, especially with it having e-torque, it probably would get about maybe 19 to 20. But I don't even have to guess. I guess I can just do that test at some point for you guys. Let me know in the comment section if you would like to see that. All right, so we're pretty much in the same spot as the Ram. We're gonna go to reset this, and we're gonna go ahead and get down the road here. I'm really excited to see how this does. They're both 6 cylinders. I don't think that the inline 6 is going to land at better fuel economy, so to speak. But it could be a good test to see how they do overall. I mean, like I said, this has a 10-speed transmission, so that's going to probably allow the RPM to run a little bit lower. But we'll just have to wait and see, because we're about to get on the highway here in about 2 minutes. Now, I can't answer this question right now, But this cab does feel a little bit smaller compared to that Ram. I put the seat down a little bit here, just a little bit, just to see if maybe it felt a little bit shorter, but I don't know. It feels like this is a little bit more compact, but this interior design, way better. This one has dual climate control. It also has a smart key system, which comes in handy too when it comes down to, you know, not having to reach for your key. The Ram did not have that for the Bighorn. It's not available either. And I like the overall layout too. I like the colors inside this interior. Granted that Ram has different interior colors, but I think I like this interior better, which is crazy to say because just 3 years ago you weren't saying that. I don't know about you guys, but I love the sound of an inline 6 diesel. This thing almost sounds like a Cummins, almost. It sounds healthy for some reason. And so, if you don't know, this thing has 305 horsepower, which bests the EcoDiesel, and it also has 495 pound-feet of torque. And if that's not enough, it has a 10-speed transmission behind it. So I really do think this is a great option if you are in the market. Like, this is one of my favorite diesels in the half-ton segment, and I hope that they keep it around for a long time. Now, do you guys remember where we were for the RPMs? We're doing 78 miles, or actually 76, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get over here and go about 78. So 78, wow. We're like at about 1,800 RPMs, guys. That Ram was running about 2,000, so this is a great test. Because now we get to see, does that V6 do better in terms of fuel economy? Because it's running 2,100 RPMs versus this one. I'm doing about 77 right now. I'm like at 16 to 1,700 RPMs, guys. That is amazing. So 2 more gears does the trick. So I'm wondering if Ram's gonna step up and do a 10 speed maybe in the next year or two. I mean, they're coming out with that Hurricane engine, but I think they're gonna run that alongside of the 5.7 with the e-torque. This is really good. This truck does feel a little bit more quieter. I love the tires on this truck too. These are the same Goodyear Wranglers where they're the Territory, so they have like a little bit more aggression to them. And I think they look a little bit nicer compared to the ones that came on the Ram too. I mean, the Ram ones weren't bad, but they just were just kind of like plain tires compared to these. Same tire size. But yeah, I'll go ahead and check back in a little bit when we get to the midpoint, so you guys can see what the fuel economy is. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, the Ram weighed 5,580 pounds. And so it was a little bit heavier than the Chevy. So this one weighs in at 5,539 pounds, which means it's gonna have a little bit more payload capacity. And here are the axle numbers too. So the axle was a little bit higher on the Ram out back. And actually it's a little bit higher on the front too, now that I think about it. But same GVWR because of the diesel engine. This one has a little bit higher GVWR also. We are at the midpoint. So exit 297. You ready for this? We are tracking better with the Duramax. I was kind of thinking in my head that the Duramax wouldn't do as good as the EcoDiesel because it has more power, but I'm not really accelerating right now, so I guess it wouldn't really matter. And this is the perfect test because I've stopped in the exact same spots both times. And so far, I'm probably trailing about the same. So here it is again. Wow, that is really, really good. So now we gotta get back up to 75, 80 miles an hour, and then I'll check back in here in a little bit. Now, I am glad that GM has decided to continue to build this inline 6 Duramax. This is the last year. Actually, they don't produce the EcoDiesel anymore. I think January was the last month that they decided to develop the EcoDiesel for the Ram segment. But GM just recently updated this engine, made it a little bit better overall, gave it more power. And this engine definitely does feel a little bit more torquey. We're gonna do that 0 to 60 here in a second. And in a separate video, I will put them together. That way you guys can see the acceleration literally side by side. But overall this truck is so quiet, you cannot hear it. I don't even feel vibrations. I feel like when I was driving the V6, you can feel a little bit of vibrations from it, but otherwise they're both really quiet. This interior, like I said, definitely does best to Ram now, especially in these lower trim levels too. But like I said, we'll check back in here in a second. We're gonna do the 0 to 60 and then I'll show you guys the final MPG. So we're off the highway. I believe I was at like 26.7 or 8. I'm at 26.1, but keep in mind I did stop at a light that I did not stop at with the Ram. So this truck does have stop start. It did not come on just now, but it just came on at this light actually, which is kind of cool. But the Ram does not have that, and I don't think I would use that. I think I would just disable that because that's not really good for diesel engines personally. But yeah, they have it on this truck for you if you want to use it. But we're gonna go ahead and do the 0 to 60 and head back to the dealership, and then that will effectively end this test. Are you guys ready? Here we go. Whoa. Yeah, this truck is a lot more powerful than the EcoDiesel. The EcoDiesel was really sluggish off the line, but then when it got going, it was super fast. And yeah, this truck has all the power, all of it. But we were at 24.9, 18 miles driven. And we're gonna pretty much stop next to that beige Chevy Malibu right here. There it is, and that's the final 24.9. So there you have it. The Ram did win today with the 25.7, I believe it was, versus 24.9. As far as acceleration goes, the Chevy definitely beat the Ram 100%, but that's not a surprise because it has more horsepower, more torque, and I think that the Chevy overall was a better truck in this segment. In the Bighorn versus LT, I would 100% pick the LT. I think the inline 6 Duramax is probably another factor too versus the V design for the engine for the EcoDiesel. But special shout out to Jerry Seiner and Larry H. Miller for allowing me to borrow their trucks today to do this test. I hope it was helpful for you guys. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video.